Hello, and welcome to Monumental, where we sit down with entrepreneurs, leaders, visionaries, and big thinkers making monumental change. Here's your host, Evan Holiday.
Welcome to Monumental. I'm your host, Evan Holiday, and today we have on the show with us a friend of mine and a fellow Nashvilleian, Derrick Morgan. Derrick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Evan. How about yourself?
Doing well, doing well. Glad to be here today with you. Excited for this episode. Love everything you're about and Kingdom Group and all the impact you're having. And so just really excited to dive into that. Before we do, a little background on Derrick. For everybody listening, he is a former NFL linebacker, enjoyed an amazing 9-year career with the Tennessee Titans right here in Nashville. Studied at Georgia Tech and then later received MBA from University of Miami. He has a passion for creating a different narrative for the traditional athlete, and is a champion for empowerment for the underserved, as well as advocate for financial literacy. And he's co-founder of NexLegacy construction company, as well as an angel investor in some really phenomenal, well-known companies, and recently started Kingdom Group, an opportunity zone initiative focused on investing in projects and companies that generate a double bottom line return, finance and social and environmental. Early investor in Beyond Meat, as well as Bitwise. Just so many things going on, man. I just love it. I love what you're doing. So let's dive right in and go into a little bit of your background, how you got to where you are today, and take it from there.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, as you stated, I finished up a 9-year career with the Tennessee Titans. Was lucky enough to stay on the same team throughout the duration of my career, and which gave me a somewhat of a sense of consistency in an ever-changing league. You know, I had 5 head coaches in my time there, and multiple position coaches and
Yeah.
defense coordinators. So it was a lot of change, but being in the same geography allowed me to put down roots in the city of Nashville to develop network and relationships throughout my time here. And so what I realized early on was that my career was going to be a finite amount of time. And the platform that the NFL affords you is one that is very unique and is very potent, but it's one that's very, very short.
Right.
And so for me, I was like, okay, I have to be very intentional about the time that I have in the NFL. And I don't want to look up after I retired and have a lot of regret for moves that I didn't make or relationships that I didn't begin or spark. And so around the time of, like, I would say midway through my career, I started to really become intentional about stuff that I was doing off the field, whether that was getting more involved in the community on the nonprofit side, or becoming a lot more engaged in my own finances and investing, and learning more about that industry, and understanding more what my long-term goals were from a financial standpoint. And so that kind of led me into a lot of different things, from venture capital to investing in minority entrepreneurs, to impact investing, which is what I currently do full time now, through direct investments, through real estate. And so when I retired in 2019, about a year ago now, I had been impact investing, for several years. Uh, but it was just kind of like I was working just with me and my advisor. So I wasn't really collaborating with a lot of people, which is, for me was a pain point of not being able to make a bigger impact, and somewhat being limited by my own, financial resources. And so I was in this silo, and I wanted to expand out of that and scale, the types of things that I was doing, but collaborate with like-minded people and do it at a larger scale. So the the institutement of Kingdom Group was launched, and this is how we plan to scale it. And so whether that's through investing in companies or doing real estate development, is the path in which we've been on.
What motivates you to keep going and not only just, have that business acumen and the business drive and the entrepreneurial drive, but also take that a step further and have that specific focus on impact with your capital?
It all boils down to my faith in God and my relationship with God and the values and the morality that I'm governed by. And uh, everybody, in my opinion, has their own mission field. It doesn't always have to be within a church or a Bible study or a small group. There, you can make an impact and spread the word of God in many ways and be an example for His kingdom. And that's what governs me. That's my faith is the centerpiece of my life. It's always been my guiding light. And so the things that I produce and manifest in the world are a direct result of that. And so that's how I kind of get you know, my moral compass of sorts and my guardrails, and it dictates what we invest in. What projects are for us. Is it helping or harming the community? Right? Is it equitable? Are there chances to change the economic mobility of a community? Like that's kind of where I land and settle is changing the economics of communities through equitable investing and development. And so that's the lane that I'm in and I feel very called to be in.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because that's 100% aligned with Holiday Ventures. And, that hit me early on. It was like college. I was like, whoa, you can literally change a neighborhood. And by changing neighborhoods, you can change families and futures of people in that community.
Right.
And that's a big feeling. Like that's powerful. It kind of like knocks you back a little bit when you first kind of realize it. You're like, whoa, you can
Yep.
have real massive monumental impact on a lot of people and a lot of communities.
Absolutely, man. So that's what drives me and that's what drives us as a team. And it just keeps us going.
So I wanted to touch on a little bit on prior to football or prior to NFL, I should say, Coatesville, where you were raised. In prepping for this, I saw you were doing work there. You're working on different projects where you can really kind of reinvigorate your hometown where it's kind of been neglected, it seems like, because it was basically a steel town. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, old Rust Town and um, situated about 45 miles west of Philadelphia. And growing up there, my essentially my way out was through football and athletics, and that's a lot of our that's a lot of where the opportunity lies in Coatesville is through athletics. There are successful people in other industries, but primarily that was what stood out to me as my way out, and which it worked for me, but that's just not the tried and true method for the majority. And so, what I've seen in my time, just going back to my community or even just more broadly dealing with youth in the community, a lot of them have this mindset that I'm going to the NFL or I'm going to the NBA,
Yeah.
but the likelihood of that happening is very slim. And so you have to have a diversity of options. And so what's usually missing in these communities are options and opportunities. And there's nothing different about the kid who grows up in Coatesville opposed to the kid who grows up in Downingtown, which is a pretty affluent suburb 5 miles away. It's
Right.
just the abundance of opportunities. So that is what I think about when I go back to my hometown, and the whole city was designated an opportunity zone. And so
Oh,
I
wow.
really kind of got into the opportunity zone space through my hometown. Like
Hmm.
I was a big fan of opportunity zones and felt like it was just a tax incentive for the rich. And I'm like, well, look, this is going to happen with or without me.
Yeah.
This is cool. I might as well, become a advocate for it for my hometown. and use it for its advantage. And so that's the approach we took, was saying, hey, look, Coatesville has this negative stigma to it to some extent. Let's start to change that stigma. Let's start to change that narrative. We got a spot in the Thanksgiving Day, the Thanksgiving Day game for the NFL on CBS.
That's huge.
In terms of shining a positive light on
Yeah.
Coatesville, and it really has contributed to the momentum of the project. And so, what we see is like, all right, there's opportunity here, but let's understand from the community's eyes what is the need, and we'll try to match our assumptions with what the actual, the voice of the community is, and how can we align all the interests from the political perspective, from the grassroots perspective, from the private investment perspective. So it's a collaboration of sorts, and we see us as being a intermediary amongst varying stakeholders. And so we've been playing that role of developer back in my hometown, and it's been going really good, man.
That's amazing. And that kind of segues into, like you mentioned, when you were impact investing while you're in the NFL, which I think is pretty unique. I'd like to dive into that a little bit. But outside of that, you said at the beginning it was really you and your advisor. How did you go from just you and your advisor and your own capital to building out Kingdom Capital? And like you said, with the Coatesville project, like bringing all those stakeholders in and bringing them to the table and making bigger projects happen and growing Kingdom Capital or Kingdom Group.
It boils down to your relationships, man, and who is aligned with your mission. And so for me, I always like to do business with people who have a shared vision or a mission alignment.
Yeah.
And so what I've done was I formed a team around just that. So what my partners bring to the table are their own skill sets and expertise, but they also bring their networks and their relationships. And so what we've been able to do is tap into those networks and activate them because there's a lot of alignment. And so whether it's family offices or institutions or nonprofits or whatever, we found a lot of synergy and crossover with what we're doing and what those what those other stakeholders represent. So it's been a very collaborative process and just really activating our respective networks.
That's amazing. And as far as I think one thing, especially entrepreneurs wanting to build that company of their own with impact, I think you're spot on. It comes down to relationships. It comes down to mission alignment. It comes down to somebody just having a shared passion and seeing your vision as the visionary and the CEO and the leader of the group, and they being aligned with that. I think that's first and foremost. As far as is kind of the question every entrepreneur or business visionary struggles with is, how do you decide who to partner with, who to hire, who to use as a how to use as a, what do you call it, like a advisor or a joint venture partner, something along those lines.
If I understood you correctly, the question was, how do I go about choosing the various partners in which I work with?
I have certain non-negotiables, right, where I will not compromise my character or anything to generate a return or a profit. And so I make sure that I'm very clear with that, and I do my own research on who those people are, right? And like to see what their track record is. Do they are they involved? Like if it's a developer, like have they been involved in gentrifying a community?
I was saying, like, when we're in discussions with potential partners, their track records are usually very visible and public, and we have a great understanding of what they represent. So like whether it's the MDHA in Nashville, right? Like they have a very public facing organization, and they're held to a very high standard. And so we understand what they're about. We understand what they're doing, what they've done, or whether it's a Hanking Group, right? They're one of the largest developers in Chester County in Pennsylvania, and they have a very public track record. And so that's kind of how we come to a decision based on experience, based on track record, but based on a mission alignment, right? And so that's an ongoing process that we've been refining, because some people, I'm not gonna say some people hide behind the fact of like impact is a very subjective term, right?
Yeah.
You can see, somebody could say impact is creating market rate housing that's a little bit below market, and like they'll call it affordable housing. I'm just like,
Right.
all right, well that's good, but like let's really dive into what you mean by impact investor or et cetera. So it requires a lot of diligence on our part, and we're very selective with who we partner with.
Yeah. I think that's a great answer, because at the end of the day, you're kind of getting married to that partner in a lot of ways, and you're tying your brand, your identity, your name, your trust in others in that partnership. So I think that's really important. You make sure you're fully aligned. And I love how you brought up impact is a very subjective term. I think that's with a lot of real estate and development, and really just kind of business in general. I think you can kind of change optics of how things are portrayed or worded, but it can mean 20 different things to 20 different people. Just like you said, like just changing the rent by $10, you could call it affordable. I think time and again, you deal with that marginal impact, and people use it as a branding tool, but not really as a true impact, and actually with the end in mind of helping others and making lasting change. And like you said, like changing economics of communities.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, we're very intentional about it. One of the relationships and partnerships that we have formed is with Howard Buffett, and Howard has a methodology called lowercase IRR, so impact rate of return. And so there are specific metrics that we associate with our projects to give us results. Like so, let's say we are doing affordable housing, right? There will be an associated metric that says, hey, you're contributing X amount of housing units to the affordable housing stock in Nashville, or this is going to create X amount of jobs, or this is going to create this amount of opportunity for attaining higher education, or degrees. And so it's very specific to the actual project, but that's something that we're very intentional about.
So what is next on the horizon for Kingdom Group? What are you guys most excited about right now?
Getting projects across the starting line, right? Real estate, as you know, is a very long game, and something that I'm becoming accustomed to. In my previous career, rewards were week to week, and it was like you prepare, you practice, you go out in the field, and you get a result. In development, it's like the complete opposite. It's like you prepare, you practice, and then your result gets delayed 3 months, and then you got to come back and then hopefully get a result, and then you got to punt it another week, and then it's like, man, I got to come back and I got to adjust this. And so it's a game within itself, but the game just has a lot more quarters to it, and then you just got to be you got to be flexible, man. And so for us is getting our projects to the starting line of actually breaking ground, and getting out of this pre-development stage, which in a lot of cases requires the most amount of work. And so, just bringing a vision to fruition is something that is challenging, but yet it's really gratifying to see it come into place. And so for us, that means like
we're excited about getting to that point and actually breaking ground and actually getting stuff coming out the ground and going vertical on construction. So I'm definitely excited about that. In particular, I'm really excited about a project that we're working towards with the MDHA here in Nashville to do mixed income development, as well as an amenity center immersed within it. So I think that has a big potential to change that community for the better and really represent inclusive, equitable development. So a couple things that's on the horizon that I'm really excited about.
That's awesome. We'll have to circle back in 6 to 12 months and let everybody know how that project's going. That sounds like a great project. And I completely agree. For any of those listening that have ever thought about real estate or wanted to get into it, it is definitely a long game. It is worth the struggle. It is worth the patience. But you really have to be passionate about it and love what you're doing and love the impact enough that you put up with all the BS along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. You can't be faint of heart, man. You got to have thick skin. You got to be resilient and persistent, man. So a lot of the things that got me to the NFL and had a prolonging my career, they translate really well for me. And so I've been blessed to be able to apply that skill set and some of those traits to the real estate development world. So it's a really fulfilling career.
Yeah. As far as going into NFL a little bit, to me, it seems like maybe I wasn't aware of it before, but it seems like maybe you were in a lot of ways on the forefront of getting into impact investing as an NFL player. You see a lot more guys doing it now, but it really didn't seem to be, top of mind or, priority for NFL players or just pro athletes in general. I think there were a select few, but how do you think that has changed over time or how players are looking at that?
Yeah, I think that you just don't, a lot of times you just don't know what you don't know. But for me, I had to do a lot of research on my own to even come across it because, the struggle with impact investing and the messaging around it, a lot of people categorize it as philanthropy and they think that it's not investing, when I'm like, nah, it's in the same category as, invest, maybe not the same category, but you are investing. This is not a donation. You should be returning, getting a return on your capital. So for a lot of us, and I always say this with professional athletes, and it's a really big generalization. However, it does hold true in a lot of examples where we come into the NFL, we get an agent, we get a financial advisor, we start a foundation, we do a couple back-to-school drives, we do a couple football camps, and it's dissolved within years of you retiring. And so it's not necessarily we have an outdated playbook. And so I think that when you talk about impact investing, that's something that's a little bit taboo, and it's not in the normal routine of a professional athlete, so to speak. But as you alluded, there are guys that are getting involved in it because now they discovered it, now they understand it, now it's something that's viable for them. And so, I think the more and more education that we can have on it, and there's more and more opportunities to invest in meaningful projects, you're going to get more and more athletes and influencers, entertainers, whatever, involved into the industry. So that's what I'm hopeful for. I'm continuing to be an advocate for that.
Yeah, I love that. That was well said. I think you're spot on. That's in a lot of ways it's an outdated model if it's not sustainable after the life of an NFL career, which, like you said earlier, is very short-lived in most cases.
Right.
And so how can you actually carry on that momentum that you've built up as an influencer, as someone that people see on TV every Sunday, to, hey, let's do some good out of this and let's build some long-term sustainable growth for communities and for investors, for their, for their bank account and for the community's bank account as a whole. That's something we talk about all the time, is like, hey, look, impact investing is not charity. You're going to make competitive returns, and you're going to make an impact on others, positive impact, not just concerned about money.
Absolutely. And I think that in particular, athletes and entertainers, we have a unique platform that, if used properly, we can really be champions and pioneers for making positive impact in our communities. And the biggest key, I think, is finding ways for us to work together and to collaborate and get tapped into existing causes and surround yourself with the expertise to mitigate the risk. But it's something that more and more people are becoming aware of, especially now. And the way in which you have to look at investing and getting returns has to adjust. We can't keep looking at investments through the traditional, is it market rate or is it not market rate return? That's a very narrow lens to look at investing through when you have so many problems in the world. Like if we keep approaching investing like that, we're gonna blow up this world. We're gonna blow up the earth, and we're just gonna be left with, hey, I got a market rate return, but the earth is in ruin, right? Like, it's just so many problems, from the environment to the social injustice, the haves and the have-nots. Like, if you think about, if you want to make change, you have to change your view on it to some extent. Not to say that market rate returns are impossible to achieve if you're in the impact space, but to really just broaden your lens on how you look at investing.
Yeah, spot on. I love that. I think that's so true. I mean, if you look at where we are today, I think the system we've built, kind of the backbone of our economy, it's worked in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of parts of it that have kind of failed us as society and failed us as culture. And we're feeling the effects of it today when, the unexpected happens. And also, many years of kind of this cultural divide and segregation within our culture has also come to a culmination. You have all these different kind of negative things happening in the world right now, and it's kind of coming to a head and saying, hey, look, like, some things aren't right. Let's use this as an opportunity to kind of fix the system, fix the way we look at investing, fix the way we look at, like, actually changing neighborhoods in the process of real estate development and impact investing.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
I love it. All right. One, can you think of lasting advice or one last piece of advice for our monumental listeners wanting to make their own monumental impact in the world and really create that impact investor movement?
I would say pray about it, right? And I don't know what your listeners' faith is, but whatever you need to do, pray, meditate, reflect, and get an understanding of what your passions are and what are the things in which you care about. You may not be on the front lines of a protest, but you may be behind the desk or in a cubicle or wherever you are, and you can still make an impact in your own unique way. But I think that settling on the things in which you're passionate about and what you care about will then keep you motivated to do the work through the ups and the downs. And so that's where I would start, and just having that awareness and carrying that awareness in everything you do.
Yeah, that's pretty similar to what I tell people as well, is like, they're asking for advice of, how do I get to where you are? Or how do I, live my life of my dreams? And it all comes back to, how much time have you put into getting clear on your goals and clear on your passion and actually spending time, putting the phone down and talking to yourself, having those thoughts in your head first, and then put that pen to paper.
Turn off social media.
Yeah.
Turn off social media for a week and see what you care about, not what's trending, right? And get solid on that, because don't have FOMO and don't try to follow the trends and just to say,
you fit in, right? Or you check the box. Like, turn that off and really see, what you care about. You may not care.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody's not going to be a freedom fighter or an activist or a change maker, but I'm assuming that most of the people that are listening have somewhat of a desire to be that. So that's what I would say, man. Just think critically, have your own thoughts, have your own opinions.
Yeah. Spot on, man. Guys, take part of or all of this nugget of value that Derrick's bringing here on Monumental. Just phenomenal. I couldn't agree more. That's what I tell everybody is just get clear. So thank you, Derrick, for that. Let's dive into our monumental questions. What does success mean to you?
Success means doing what you're passionate about, and making a change in a positive way, and understanding, like, success is not a specific outcome. It's more of a journey, and it's more of a, am I making a dent in the world through what I've been purposed to do? Like, that to me is success. Is like dying empty. You know what I mean? And so it's not like a particular building or a project or amount of money. It's dying empty and knowing that, all right, I fulfilled my mission. I did everything I was supposed to do.
I love it. What about daily habits or morning rituals that you have?
On a good day, I'm waking up between 5 and 5:30, prayer, in my word, meditation, working out, walk the dog, and then spend about an hour with my kids before we both part ways and they go to school and I go to the office.
And then as far as favorite book or book you are currently reading?
I just finished Buddha and the Badass, which was a really good book. The guy, Vishen, I forget his last name, but he runs Mind. Vishen Lakhiani. I know I just butchered that, but he runs Mind Valley, and he wrote this really good book called Buddha and the Badass. So that was a good one.
I like it. That's a catchy title. I have not heard that one before.
Yeah.
Well, Derrick, thank you again for being a guest here on Monumental, making your own monumental change in the world with Kingdom Group, and really finding creative, unique projects like the one in your hometown and the one here in Nashville, and giving a little insight into that and kind of peeling back the curtain for our listeners. As far as how our listeners can reach out to you or get in touch with you?
Yeah, my handle is DMorg, so DMORG 91, on Instagram, Twitter, and then you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
I like it. And their website is KNGDM Group.com. Again, Derrick, phenomenal episode. Absolutely love it. Guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share it with your friends, share it on social media. Let us know you're listening. Tag Derrick, DMorg91, tag me, Evan Holiday. And guys, with that, have a monumental day.